So fun fact, I recently had to file a restraining order on General Motors' behalf against myself actually, and that's because I committed what is known as felony glazing. But if loving the CT5-V Blackwing this much is apparently illegal, then I don't ever want to be right again. I love driving this car more than Lance Stroll loves being bad at racing. I love driving this car more than deer love the freeway. I love driving this car more than New Jersey loves toll booths. I think you get where I'm going with this. There are two cars that are always in the conversation of the greatest performance sedan of all time, at least in the modern era. BMW M5 CS and the Cadillac CT5-V Blackwing, the first gen. But now, there's a new one, and it's got more screen, more headlight, and more miles inside. Pause. But the question is, with all the new competitors on the market, Audi RS7 Performance, Mercedes E53, and even the new hybrid M5, should my glaze with the Blackwing grow or give out? When you see a CT5 with a Blackwing badge on the back, you know that the driver keeps that blower on him. Quite literally. The beating heart of this Blackwing is a 670 horsepower V8 with a fat old supercharger on tap. Would this car be as beloved if it was twin turbocharged versus being supercharged? It's honestly hard to say, but we all know that some of the most insane GM products to come out of the 21st century have all had supercharged V8s. Camaro Z01 1LE, C7 Corvette ZR1, Escalade V. Are we following? What GM have done with this car is created a drivetrain that feels equally aggressive as it is drivable. The LT4 in this car is tuned for a 1-to-1 aggression to approachability ratio, meaning that if you want to turn everything absolutely off and throw this thing into a corner like a mad lad, you can certainly do so, but they've calibrated this drivetrain to be able to have you understand and learn the car and learn to control it as time goes on and you drive it more and more. So still super linear power delivery, but still super boosty and super fun. That's what a supercharger will do to you. The benefit of this car being supercharged in my eyes is having that naturally aspirated power delivery feel, but while actually having power at the low end compared to actual naturally aspirated cars. And so because of that big old blower you got underneath the hood, you got 660 pound-feet of torque. That's 30 more pound-feet than the Audi RS7 Performance. That's 100 more than the new M5 if you turn the hybrid drivetrain off. And yes, those all-wheel drive missiles are certainly going to put the power down better than something like this, especially from a standstill. But come on, you can't tell me that having all the power going to the rear wheels all the time isn't more fun? Come on. This car isn't all about going sideways though, and I think Cadillac knew that and made that a point to prove with this new generation, which is why they're offering what they're calling the Precision Pack. And you can think of this as Cadillac's RS or CS trim for the Blackwing. It's not about pushing power figures, it's all about handling and finesse. So they've firstly given you higher spring rates and a front stabilizer bar to really tighten things up, and then they've also tweaked the steering knuckle and recalibrated the dampers to give you a more track-oriented feel. Also, carbon ceramic brakes, and they are very big. But this package is $18,000, which is a lot of money. $18,000 is more than what Porsche sells for the Weissach pack on the GT4 RS. And yes, the bulk of that cost is the carbon ceramic brakes, which are going to be expensive on any car. But I'm not sure if most people really need something like this. Is the car going to be that much worse to drive without a package like this? Well, the previous gen Blackwing will tell you no, it definitely won't. And if you're not a genuine autocross or track junkie or live right next to a windy canyon road, you're going to be sending it down every single week, I don't know if I could really recommend this package. I mean, sure, if money's no object, then go crazy, go for it. But if you actually have to budget your options with a car like this, I don't know if it's necessarily worth it. But the fact that Cadillac is offering this package to begin with, certainly net positive, and I'm glad that he did, because if you are that guy who wants to take it to a track day every month, every other week, this certainly makes a difference, a noticeable difference. All right, time for a launch control. In the most ideal conditions, we should definitely get a sub 4 second 0 to 60, but I'm hoping for maybe a 3.6, 3.5. That's the ideal number. Let's see if we can get it. We do have good tires this time around, Michelin Pilot Sport 4S, and it's almost 70 degrees outside, so I think everything is in place for us to get a good time here. All right, foot on the brake. had some slip, but that felt pretty good. All right, 0 to 60 in 4.13. All right, here's what I think we're gonna do. So that was in custom mode with RPM set at 1810% wheel slip. So let's see what happens when we just let the car completely do its thing in automatic launch control mode. And that was auto shifting, by the way. I wasn't manually shifting there. All right, let's try this again. Man, I think we had even more wheel slip that time. Let's see what we did. Okay, 3.88. So I guess doing automatic launch control is the way to go. I wonder if we get just like a little bit quicker, just a little bit quicker. It seems to be getting quicker with every launch. Let's see if we can get 3.7. That would be ideal. All right, last time, for real this time. That jump from 50 to 60 felt quicker this time. I think we might have gotten a better number. 3.78, awesome. Yeah, okay, so I guess raising the RPMs was a good call, 3.78. I think I'm happy with that number. I mean, it's not far off from the best time that this car's gotten, which is like a 3.5 on a drag strip. So yeah, 3.7 seconds for rear wheel drive and almost 700 horsepower. I'm not gonna complain about that. Tires are getting stinky. As far as big displacement super sedans go, this is one of the lightest out there. We're talking 700 pounds lighter than the RS7 Performance and 1,200 pounds lighter than the equivalent M5 and Panamera Turbo Hybrid. That is a crazy difference. And that difference in weight is one of the reasons why it feels so great to drive in scenarios like this compared to those other cars. I honestly think this is the perfect size for a sports sedan with a big V8. It harkens back to vehicles like the E39 M5 that just fit like a glove on a road like this. It's still big enough to do everyday sedan things, but it's not too big to the point where you feel sketched out on a canyon road or on a racetrack or autocross, something like that. It's just perfectly sized. The fact that there's less than 200 pounds separating this and a BMW M3 with xDrive is pretty crazy. It can't be all positives though, right? Well, no, not exactly. So allow me to put a brief pause on my glazing for a moment. One thing that Cadillac really hasn't improved with this generation of Blackwing is the automatic transmission. The 10-speed auto, it's just pretty mid, if I'm being honest. It feels quite slushy, quite frankly, and doesn't feel as snappy and quick to respond as the ZF 8-speeds and modern BMWs and Audis, Porsches, even Maseratis. And it also, for whatever reason, doesn't feel as quick as it does in the CT5-V Blackwing that I had a while ago. For whatever reason, the automatic just felt much better in that car. I will say though, it does have kind of a bit of a personality. This is a transmission that really wants you to push it all the time. That's when you get the best response from the transmission and the most satisfying feeling shifts, when you're going full balls to the walls. It doesn't like middle of the road acceleration, and when you're grannying it, it's smooth and very comfortable to use. But it kind of is like the old robotized manual transmissions and the old Lambo Gallardos and the old BMW M5 with the V10, cars like that, which still makes it an objectively not great transmission. But if you learn it and understand its quirks, that makes the experience better when trying to enjoy it. But it's still just not a great transmission compared to other super sedans I've tested. I'd say it objectively has the worst automatic. But the biggest benefit of having the 10-speed auto is getting access to what I believe is one of the best and most necessary package options you should get for this car if you're gonna get the automatic anyway, and that is Super Cruise. It's $2,000 and some change to get Super Cruise optioned in this car, but 100% worth it if you are already going to get the automatic. 1,000% worth it. Super Cruise in any of the vehicles that it's in is one of the best assisted drivers that you can get in a car right now if you don't want a Tesla. I'd say it's just a hair better than BMW's overall. And so you're telling me that I can do a track day, absolutely rip it up, shred the tires, have an absolute blast, and then on the long drive home, turn on Super Cruise and have the car basically drive me home? Yeah, I think I would like that very much. I think the biggest miss with this car's transmission is the fact that it's not the Tremec DCT from the C8 Corvettes. If this car had the DCT from the C8 Corvette, I think it would mechanically be perfect, like actually perfect as far as performance sedans go. And I feel like it should be able to bolt up given the fact that the Stingray has a 6.2 liter V8 as well. So I don't know why they never considered that an option for the Blackwing. Maybe it was just too expensive, but that would be the dream automatic Blackwing. But of course, the actual dream spec for a Blackwing is the 6-speed manual, which you can get in this car. Sure, you don't get Super Cruise when you get the manual, but it's an entirely different experience being able to roll your own gears with this much power. And obviously you're going to get higher resale value on the manuals too. And so that's really the one to get if you want pure performance, if that's your #1 priority. If you want more of a daily with more usability on the freeway, the automatic is the way to go. But if you're just focused on the best driving experience possible, 6-speed manual all the way. No lift shift is an epic feature, but it is still great that without the 6-speed manual, you can still have a boatload of fun in this car. I have fun every time I drive this car. I've done 300 miles in just a couple of days. This thing is awesome. So balanced. It's always trying to let loose on you a little bit, but for the most part, really composed. Send it through this hairpin. Yeah. You got to be careful when you put your foot to the floor in this thing. Something I never really dug into with the previous Blackwing videos I did was the performance traction modes. It's by far one of the most underrated features of this car and something that I hope other manufacturers copy in some aspect. This gives you a suite of different traction control options to fit whatever driving scenario you found yourself in. And I've found that PTM Sport is my go-to traction mode for fun on the street. It'll definitely let the rear end out on you, no problem, and give you the ability to take turns with a little more spice than you would in normal mode, but it's not going to put you in a ditch either. It's just incredibly trusting. It's a very trustworthy system to have in this car if you want to have street fun. And then if you want to go all the way off, you can go race 2. If you want no PTM traction, you can go turn it off, and then you have a very composed driving experience. And you've got a range of other traction modes here to meet all of your needs. You've got wet mode if you want as little wheel spin as humanly possible, and then you have race 2 if you want to go full balls to the walls, turn everything off, and there's nothing in between you and that 670 horsepower going all to the rear wheels. Yes, the automatic transmission is still a letdown for me, but dynamically, this new Blackwing is giving you more of everything you want from a pure driver-focused sedan. Sure, I'm only getting 9 miles per gallon on a great day, but it's in a car that I enjoy every single mile that I cross. So it's a trade-off I'm willing to make, personally. Is the new Blackwing uglier than the old one? Honestly, yeah, a little bit. I think the problem with this new front-end design is that it can't decide whether it wants to be old Cadillac or new Cadillac. You see, the first-gen Blackwing definitely has a modern design, but it's undeniably Cadillac with that face on it. It's got the sharp headlights and grills, but the front end is moderately simple. That's usually Cadillac's thing. I think the new version makes the front end more unnecessarily complicated when it didn't need to be that way. It's got all these weird lines and patterns, but still carries most of the foundation of the original car's design. It's like they started transforming the CT5 into an IQ, like those new EVs, and stopped at the halfway point. But do I think it's actually ugly just overall? No, it's still a handsome looking car, and it definitely looks better in person than in pictures. And thankfully, the rear end is basically identical to the first generation Blackwing, still as mean and aggressive as ever. The interior is where all the important and more welcome changes happen with the new Blackwing, starting with the base, which is my acronym for the big ass super screen. Gone is the relatively unimpressive center screen from the old Blackwing in favor for this pretty nice new center screen that offers more functionality and more pixels. We love more pixels. And I think my favorite feature of this new center screen is this side menu on the left of the steering wheel that gives you quick access to things like the exterior lights, your trip data, and launch control, which is a fun button to play with. And a totally minor infotainment feature that I really appreciate Cadillac for is having these turn signal icons placed on the outer edges of the steering wheel. So no matter where the steering wheel is placed, no matter what position I have it in, I'll always be able to see the turn signal icons. It's little things like that that I really appreciate. You of course have these epic bucket seats with full gloss carbon backs. And this isn't a new thing for the Blackwing, it was in the previous version, but this is my first time getting a press car that has these full gloss carbon backs. And Holy hell, do they look good. BMW will say things like, the new M5 Touring is dripping with aura. And that is a literal quote from BMW on social media. But clearly they've never seen the inside of a CT5-V Blackwing. I think my biggest takeaway with the updated interior of the Blackwing is that now this car feels much more like a luxury sports car compared to the previous gen. And when you consider the more minimalist approach that BMW's taking with their new M5, I think I now prefer the interior of the CT5-V versus the new M5. But that's just me. We'll actually be swapping this for an M5 wagon next week, so I'll be able to rant about that car a lot more then. Definitely subscribe, because that's a video you're gonna wanna see. Whenever I hang around my automotive journalist unks on these press launches and events for new cars, a common sentiment that I'm always hearing from them is that they don't make them like they used to, son. And sure, that is true. A lot of cars don't have a lot of personality and soul, but every now and then I get to drive something like this that reminds me that actually new cars can be full of personality and soul. I just think that engineers need to stop being so focused on technology and rather learn how to use that technology to their advantage in the engineering process to evoke more personality and more soul, because that's what this car has. It has all the new school perks, but all the old school analog fun. As a car reviewer, I often get brought into the conversation of, if you could only drive one car forever, what would it be? Well, I don't think I have an answer, but I know this is definitely in the top 5. But seriously though, who would win, 100 men or one silverback gorilla? I've been thinking about this for like a week straight, and I can't really come up with a definitive answer. See, 100 guys is a lot, but I mean, if the gorilla is on timing, then, you know, I mean, I feel like that might scare a lot of the guys, and then you gotta think about the first person who has to kick it off. They're probably done in like a few seconds, and gorillas are strong. They can actually bench press over 4,000 pounds. Did you know that? They're just outrageously strong. But then you have to consider the fact that 100 of anything is just gonna be a number that you can't really do that much against if you're one person, one thing. I mean, unless you're a dinosaur or something like that, then I guess you could take out 100.